126, the Chovos HaLevavos speaks about, although we speak about the characteristics of Hashem, there's nothing inherent, intrinsic in Him which is the basis for the characteristic. And God has no form, no image. God is infinite. But there's certain terminologies that we use because to be able to relate to God's existence, the Torah uses, or we use certain depictions. The eyes of God, the hand of God, the outstretched hand of God. Also, we speak about the attributes. God smelt the fragrance, right? By Noah, when he brought the karbonos after the Mabul, it says he smelt the fragrance of the karbonos. Vayar Hashem, he saw. Vayinochem, he had a change of mind. Vayisatze v'libo, he was saddened. So God has relevance to emotion. He's saddened, or he's gladdened, or he's satisfied. What is satisfaction an indication of? That means you were lacking, and now something happened which satisfied that lack. There's no lack by God, right? God is never deficient. Like I always say, in the Rav Chaim Volozhin says this, when a person says, Baruch Atah Hashem, yes, 99% of people who say Baruchos, they misunderstand what they're saying. Bless God. How could you bless God? God doesn't need any blessing. Blessing, a person needs a blessing because the blessing adds. It adds to what you don't have or what you need. God needs nothing. So we blessing God. Baruch Atah Hashem. God, you should be blessed. Right? Baruch means you are the source of blessing. Baruch Atah Hashem, you are the source of blessing. We're acknowledging that He's the source of all blessing. That is the meaning of Baruch Atah Hashem. Okay, that Rav Chaim Volozhin speaks about. Well, that he speaks about. The Gemara Brachos, Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol, which means allow. He says, bless me, allow me to release the blessing to you, because there's much interference. There's prosecution. So allow me. Bless me means allow me to be able to release the blessing. Okay? Vayered Hashem. God went down, right, before he destroyed Sodom, or when he confused when they're building the Tower of Babel. It says Vayered Hashem. He went down to see what they were doing. Then he confused their languages, right? Vayiskar Elokim. Vayishma Hashem. Vayikan Kiyoshein Hashem. Vayikatz. He awakened as if he was sleeping. But God sleeps. God is awakened. There's no change in God. It's the way people express themselves, the way people speak. He says they explain these attributions in as subtle a fashion as possible and interpret them in a way that is reverential. There's no other way to express ourselves regarding God, God's majesty. I mean, so when we think of it, when we internalize and we process things, it's interesting. I mean, the Gemara says in Brachos, David quoted Brachos, there's a little bit further, that if a person has an opportunity to see a Gentile king, especially the coronation of a Gentile king, you should even run to go to that, to see the honor of the king, the Gentile king. Why? Because when Mashiach will come, you'll have a frame of reference to differentiate between what majesty and what majesty is. If you don't know what majesty is, you think this is majesty. But if you understand, because you've exposed to what majesty is, and the pomp and whatever else, then you'll understand what it is and what it's not. Then you'll have an appreciation for Melch Mashiach, when he comes, what his majesty is. Okay? So you have to have a frame of reference. So we have to be able to have, how does a person have reverence for God? God is all-powerful. God is this, God is that. So as a human being, we have to be able to internalize and process things. Human being has difficulty. Why do we find there's so many, the Torah reiterates it endless times, Moshe Rabbeinu, at Sinai, regarding the provision of making idols. Because at Sinai, you heard the sound, and you didn't see a form. Because a human being, to be able to relate to something, we have to be able to visualize something. And we have to have something more concrete to relate to. It's very difficult to relate to something which is abstract, which we can't even visualize. And you're not even permitted to visualize. You don't visualize God. You don't visualize God. Even though we're using what he's saying now, based on psukim, it's only an expression. God is all-powerful. God sees. God is all-knowing. God hears. Well, God has ears. He has a... No, you don't visualize it. You don't visualize it. No, he does. No, you don't visualize. Well, God has ears. No, because how do you say God hears? How do you say ears? How do you say hearing? Hearing usually is related to the ears. Seeing is related to the eyes. The eyes of God, but it doesn't mean the eyes of God. God is all-knowing, all-seeing. You're not visualizing. You don't visualize what you visualize. You're not permitted to visualize God.
Right, so that's how we can't draw a picture of
so it's you're drawing the picture, or you're visualizing in your mind. God has no form.
when you read a book, you read the words, you vision what you're reading.
No.
You visualize what you're reading.
But that's if you don't understand what you're reading. If you understand what you're reading, you don't visualize it. Right? The eyes of God, God has no eyes. God has no hands. God has no feet. Tachas raglei hakisei, or raglei Hashem. God has no feet. It's only an expression. Because God is there. So God, right only represents midas harachim, because the right is always more positive than the left. Because again, because we relate to it ourselves, the right is the more powerful, the left is the weaker. It's only a way to, that's what he's explaining over here. These are expressions for us to be able to appreciate how God is interacting with existence. That's all it means. You know, there's an expression. You don't get it, right? You have to be able to get it. Get it doesn't mean just intellectually. You have to grasp it. So to be able to grasp something, internalize it, you have to express it a certain way. Otherwise, we can't internalize it. But it has nothing to do with the visual. It's just hearing it. Let's say you want to make a movie for children. Could you have a picture of God there interacting with existence? You're not permitted. Right. But the kids aren't going to get it. It's irrelevant. If they're going to visualize and understand that way, you can't do it. You're not permitted to do it. Because they're going to be, what, that's God.
But to say it.
Because the saying, even when you say it, it doesn't mean that. That's what he's explaining over here. It doesn't mean God has eyes and God has hands. Ultimately, the child will understand. So what happens if your child, look, your child says, but if he has, so why can't I see him, right? Right. So what are you going to answer your child then? If God has hands and legs and everything, so why can't I see him? So what are you going to say? What would you answer your child on that one? Right. The answer is there are many things we can't see. He's invisible, right? That's what you say. He's invisible, right? You answer a child on his level.
Can you use any expression that you want to? So you have to use an expression typically used in the Torah.
That's praise. That's praise. That's praise.
You can ask if God manifests himself in the world in certain
Yeah,
ways.
definitely.
That's the purpose of prayer.
That's nothing.
Down, all around. That's what it is.
That is. It is.
They get it.